All right, let's get started. The beauty of technology, I've been cued. So I think everyone's on or joining here shortly. I want to welcome everyone to the 2022 Technology Commercialization Fund Selections Roundtable. My name is Marcos Gonzalez Harsha, and I'm the Principal Deputy Director of the Department of Energy's Office of Technology Transitions. We're the proud stewards of the Tech Commercialization Fund, or TCF. And today we are excited to announce 7 awards representing an $18.4 million investment in support of the core national laboratory infrastructure for technology commercialization. Today's announcement is the culmination of a year of work with partner offices across the Department of Energy and reflects a new approach to the TCF. This reimagined TCF was made possible by new legislative language and the hard work of our team, including our TCF program manager, Mary Hubbard. Thank you, Mary, and the entire TCF team and our partners within the agency and the national lab applicants for all your hard work. Today, we are joined by a panel of distinguished guests, including both of New Mexico's United States senators and an accomplished senior scientist from the Sandia National Laboratories, also New Mexico. Panelists will share their perspectives and experiences on the TCF, as well as on the crucial importance of lab commercialization. To get us started, it is my privilege to turn things over to our moderator, who is a champion of commercialization and whose deep experience in the department and energy sector makes him the perfect moderator for this conversation. Deputy Secretary of Energy, David Turk. And now over to you, Deputy Secretary.
Well, thanks very much, Marcos. And it's a pleasure to have our senators, Senator Heinrich and Senator Luján here in particular, and also Cliff Ho. And thank you for everyone attending this incredibly important session. And I have to give a special shout out to Marcos and Vanessa and the full OTT, our Office of Technology Transitions, just doing incredibly important work. OTT over the last many years has revolutionized, and I say that word very purposefully, the way we do technology commercialization at the Department of Energy. Now, we know we've got incredibly ambitious goals that this administration has put on the table. Incredibly ambitious goals that our 2 senators have set for themselves in their state as well. And we need to achieve those goals on the clean energy front, the jobs front, economic revitalization opportunities. And to reach these goals, we need to, in the words of channeling Secretary Granholm, my boss, deploy clean energy technologies in the real world, in New Mexico, in states around the country like never before. And we really need to double and triple, quadruple down on commercialization, getting the technologies out of our phenomenal national labs. We've got 2 just terrific national labs, Sandia and Los Alamos in New Mexico. We've got 17 labs across the country. We need to get those technologies out of the labs and into the field and into the market at scale and as quickly as we possibly can. And that's where OTT, the commercialization front in particular. I want to give a special thanks to our 2 senators here and others that you've worked with on a bipartisan basis to provide a historic level of funding through the bipartisan infrastructure legislation that passed last year. For us at the Department of Energy, that's $62 billion for all sorts of clean energy projects across the country, catalytic projects that are really going to have huge real world benefit. That is a historic level of funding for the department, and other departments, of course, also have some funding as well. And as we spend that $62 billion and invest that $62 billion in projects across the country, we've got to really focus on the commercialization piece. It's not good enough to do a nice project here or there. It's got to be catalytic, right? We've got to have these funds from taxpayers in New Mexico, taxpayers from all across the country to go as far as they possibly can. There's a particular effort here called the Technology Commercialization Fund, which is not a huge amount of money. It's not $62 billion. I'm sure Marcos would like it to be $62 billion. It's not quite there yet, but it's a huge opportunity to accelerate the commercialization of a few select technologies each year. And really focusing on this kind of funding, thinking of the big picture, commercialization infrastructure. Right, we've got to figure out the catalytic piece of some of these technologies and get them up and running. We've got to address barriers. We've got to do partnerships. My job, my experience in this job over the last year and a half as Deputy Secretary at the Department of Energy, you get nowhere unless you're working in partnership. Partnership with state and locals, partnership with entrepreneurs, with companies, with universities, along those lines. And this technology commercialization fund, it's a novel approach. It's the kind of thinking, it's the kind of creative thinking that we need to compete and take advantage. So today, DOE is awarding $18.4 million through the Technology Commercialization Fund. 4 national labs, 4 of our 17 national labs are the primary recipients of this funding. And each of them will partner with many other national labs and innovators and other key folks, key stakeholders in the infrastructure in their ecosystems. So just to give you a sense of the 4 labs, and we'll spend a particular focus on Sandia National Lab, because that's where our 2 senators are from, and incredibly important projects there. But let me run through the other 3 very quick. First, Berkeley National Lab. This is our national lab, one of our national labs in California, investing in diverse talent, developing promising technologies, and strengthening relationships with industry partners. I was just out at Berkeley National Lab a few months ago. Incredible work that they're doing out there. Second recipient is the National Renewable Energy Lab, NREL, in Colorado, Golden, Colorado, to start a prize for flexible funding and commercialization assistance to innovators. Again, trying to be creative and really using this program in particular. Third recipient is our Pacific Northwest National Lab in Washington State. I was actually just out there a couple weeks ago, improving the way teams work together to accelerate the transition to technologies from the lab to the market, developing a new search tool to increase access to intellectual property. And again, trying to connect dots, remove barriers as we go forward. And then the fourth recipient, and I think the one nearest and dearest to our 2 senators' hearts and all the work that they've done for many, many years, is Sandia National Lab in New Mexico, one of our 2 labs in New Mexico, particularly focused on expanding collaboration with diverse clean energy startups in the region. Incredibly exciting region, incredibly exciting companies going on in New Mexico and in the region around Sandia, focusing on moving semiconductors, microelectronics to market much faster. And a theme in all of this effort is the pace and scale, right? It's not good enough to just let things organically happen. We've got competition challenges around the world. We've got our clean energy goals that we need to accelerate and move at pace as quickly as we can. So our discussion here today is going to focus, it's going to zero in on Sandia Lab and what this means for New Mexico. What are the real world impacts of what we're trying to do here? Now, I have to say New Mexico is very much in this department's DNA. It's where the Manhattan Project started and now home to Sandia, as well as Los Alamos National Labs. New Mexicans are also, and I don't need to tell the senators this, are feeling the impacts of climate change, especially through wildfires. The wildfires that ravaged not too long ago, just a few months ago, including getting right up to the border on Los Alamos, which we spent a lot of time coordinating with the senators and others on. But Mexicans are feeling the squeeze of inflation. We're all feeling the squeeze of inflation and wanting everyday items to cost less. And they're eager, and the enthusiasm, the leadership here is just extraordinary, I've got to say, of really helping to build and helping to lead the 21st century energy economy and becoming a clean energy hub and exporter. So this investment in Sandia National Lab is going to help address all of these challenges. Sandia is already New Mexico's largest employer, and this award will help grow the next generation of diverse STEM leadership here in the land of enchantment. So today, as was already mentioned, we're joined by the 2 senators from New Mexico, Senator Heinrich and Senator Luján, to help us explore what this particular award means for your constituents. Obviously, there are constituents too, because we work nationally, but the constituents in New Mexico. And I just have to say, these 2 senators have been such extraordinary champions for the Department of Energy, for the 2 labs in their own home state, but for the department more generally and all that we're trying to do, and especially on the commercialization front. We have also with us Dr. Cliff Ho, who's a senior scientist at Sandia National Lab and a past recipient of a technology commercialization fund reward, to also help us round out this panel and to give us his perspective. Dr. Ho's work focuses in particular on solar energy, energy storage, water, and environmental monitoring. All right, so let's get right to the senators, if I could first. And a question for both of you of why you're excited about this year's technology commercialization fund, DOE's renewed focus on this in particular. Senator Heinrich, if I could turn to you first, and then we'll go to Senator Luján.
Sure. Thank you, Dave, and great to join Cliff and my colleague from today. I just think this is something that should have been so central to how we view the role of our national labs in the past, but you're really hitting your stride now at the department and at the labs on commercialization. And I think historically, I mean, there really was some resistance among DOE leadership. I remember a secretary, very talented secretary, who early in my career told me, this isn't central to our mission. And the reality is, if we're going to solve climate change and we're going to compete with near peer competitors like China, this has to be central to our mission. This is how we not only maximize the work that gets done at our national laboratories inside the infrastructure of national security, but it's how we build a more competitive nation and maximize those things in the private sector and maximize how quickly we can respond to a really rapidly changing globe.
Thanks for that, Senator. I couldn't agree more with you about how central that is to our mission here at DOE. I was actually just meeting yesterday with a key colleague at OMB, Office of Management and Budget, which is they control the funding, as the senators know from the executive branch side of things. And this colleague was asking me, Dave, how do you think things are going? And I said, and what are your priorities? And I said, I know for the secretary, for myself, for all of us at the department, with the leadership of the senators here and others, it's really this commercialization, it's the deployment, it's helping real people in real communities and what the department can do on that front. And we've got to work at that to make sure that that lasts and endures. Sorry, too much for me. Senator Luján, over to you.
Well, Deputy Secretary Turk, it's always an honor to chat with you, to be with you today. Dr. Ho, thank you for making yourself available. Congratulations on your past successes and your future successes. And we always learn whenever you're in the room, sir. So I look forward to hearing more from you. And then our friend, Senator Heinrich, for the work that he has done and will continue to do. And a big part of why we're here today with the work he did on the 2020 Act. So Senator Heinrich, always an honor to join you. And I guess the short answer, Deputy Secretary, is I concur with Senator Heinrich. I'm excited about this because of the incredible innovation that takes place at the national labs every day. You often hear me say when I talk about our national labs that if something bad is happening in the world, someone from our national labs is there trying to figure it out and make it better. And when something good is happening or there's a challenge out there, someone from our national labs is there trying to figure out how to make things better, how to improve upon what's happening and solve these challenges. And that's why technology transfer matters so much. The biggest challenges in the world are often solved by expert at our national labs. And why can't the everyday markets and shelves take advantage of this incredible technology, and let's bring it into commercialization? And I think that's what we saw from Dr. Ho with the incredible research that he was part of and conducting, and what that means to helping to solve everyday challenges, especially when it comes to climate. But when you look at Sandia National Labs, Purple City Labs, for example, which helped develop molecular diagnostics technology for plant testing to make sure crops are safe. We saw emerging technology ventures using artificial intelligence to also look at possible damage to wind turbines, and Empower Technology, which developed a new design for solar technology as well. And then we shouldn't forget what's come out of Los Alamos, which is looking how the financial markets can make better decisions when it comes to food commodities, and then what that same technology represents to growers around the world to make sure that we're able to address those challenges. So I look forward to more opportunity here to continuing to push the Department of Energy and the administration to make this a priority, not just now, and I congratulate DOE for doing what they're doing and the work that Senator Heinrich did in the Act, but going forward, there shouldn't ever be a question if this is part of the lab's mission. It's also one of the reasons why I'm very proud of the work that we have done as a delegation to ensure that the competition bill, USICA, which is currently being negotiated, Senator Heinrich is on that conference committee, but we started the conversation by earning support bipartisanly, and special thanks to Senator Marsha Blackburn for this authorization of $17 billion in this space with artificial intelligence, with development of incredible work that the competition bill promises. This reminded everyone that this work is being done every day at the labs. And if we're going to stay ahead in the United States, the Department of Energy and our national labs has to be at the forefront with this investment, and including some of the work we're doing to encourage more investment with the infrastructure needs that exist at our national labs. And it's been great working with the directors, but I want to thank Senator Heinrich for the work he's doing, and Secretary Granholm. So we keep pushing, we're going to get some victories here, but just congratulations to everyone today. And thanks for the announcements you've been making and for including me in this conversation.
Well, thanks, Senator Luján. And we've had some terrific victories because of your leadership, because of Senator Heinrich's leadership, and there's more victories we need in the future. I can't resist, since you were really crediting the National Lab and the expertise, the wide-ranging expertise that we have at the labs. There was a moment there for the first several months that Secretary Granholm and I were in this job, and anytime we thought we had an original idea of an area that we should focus on, we'd take it back to staff and say, boy, we should do this. And the inevitable answer that came back is, of course, we're already doing this. Lab X, Y, and Z is already on it, and they've been working on it for a dozen years, and they've got great ideas that just need to be elevated and all of that. So just wanted to add that in. All right, Cliff, Dr. Ho, let's bring you into this conversation. And as I mentioned, as a member of a past TFC award winner, love for you to share with everyone how this award was helpful, how the collaboration with industry, the technology commercialization focused benefited what you're doing, benefited your work, but the community and real world impact. I think that's what we're all after in the end. So Cliff, over to you.
Thank you, Deputy Secretary Turk. Let me first start by saying it's a pleasure and an honor to be here with you and Senators Heinrich and Senator Luján, representing the great state of New Mexico and engineers and scientists across the labs. So I did have a TCF, a Technology Commercialization Fund. It started last year, addressing the need for long duration storage, helping to complement the lithium-ion battery storage. And I think what's really important about the Technology Commercialization Fund and these opportunities across DOE in terms of providing funding for the labs to not only develop these technologies, but also to try to transfer them to industry, is that it provides a different perspective. As a scientist, I might, find a certain phenomenon or performance aspect and write a paper. But I'll tell you, one of the most gratifying things in working not only with the TCF, but some of these other commercialization opportunities that I've been on, is seeing it transferred. In addition to the TCF I'm currently working on, just a few years ago, you mentioned, Deputy Secretary, about barriers. We had a Department of Energy program to look at reducing permitting barriers for photovoltaics. Something you might not think about, glare from panels. Anyone who's seen a glass building, the sun reflecting off it or off the back of a pickup window, it's bright. And although it's not something you think about, it could be an issue while permitting and a deterrent near airports, highways. And so the labs, Sandia developed a tool. It was licensed and commercialized. It's used in over 60 countries around the world. It was recommended by the FAA and the Federal Register. And to be honest, that was one of the most gratifying things I've done in my nearly 30 years at Sandia. So, let me just close by saying I want to encourage and challenge all the engineers and scientists at the national labs, to take it to the next level. After you've written the paper and done your program, the objectives of your project, think about what's next in terms of how can I transfer this to industry and commercialize it if possible.
Well, thanks for that, Cliff. And I'm struck by just the level of public service for folks who join our labs, and a real interest, just like you expressed, Cliff, to help real people, right? To help neighbors, to help folks all around the world. And no other country has the lab system we have. We've got it's crown jewels, to say the least. And for not only the problems we face in our country, but around the world, this is where it's either going to happen or not happen, and happen in the real world. So thanks for your leadership, Cliff, and thanks for sharing that particular success story. Let me put it that way. All right, so let's take it back to the father or godfather of the Technology Commercialization Fund, Senator Heinrich. Thank you for your phenomenal leadership, as Senator Luján said, of writing the authorizing language in the Energy Act of 2020, and would love to get from you what motivated you to focus on this program. I think it's already come out somewhat, but love to hear the particular origin story, if you want to think of it that way, and then what you hope we can accomplish over the coming years as we look to do even more going forward.
Yeah, I really wanted to simply shine a spotlight on what was already a developing tool from the Energy Act of 2005 and scale that up to the needs of the challenges that we face today, to give additional flexibilities and tools to the department, but also to just send the message that that focus is really important to the mission at DOE and to our national labs, and that when when people like Cliff step forward with something that can have a direct impact in the private sector, that as DOE, as the individual labs, we should be supporting that. We should be finding ways to make that a focus. And historically, there were so many barriers, and the more we can just find those friction points and remove them and send the message that this is a really key part of the mission, the faster I think we'll be able to solve the challenges that we have. And we're really feeling the impacts of climate right now in New Mexico. You mentioned the fires, and I can't thank my colleague enough for his leadership in the midst of what was a terrible, unprecedented fire season in months when we don't normally have fires. And if we're going to get a handle on these macro challenges, it's going to be by taking the developments that we've already seen, things like long-term storage at the labs, and moving them into the private sector and scaling them. That's what makes me excited about this.
Well, thanks for all the leadership, and the scaling it, I think, is exactly right. Right, our world needs solutions at scale, and again, to do it as quickly as we possibly can. Senator Luján, you've been an incredible champion for commercialization, including as such a key part of our future, not only New Mexico's future, but our country's future. If you could just give us a little bit more on why you think it's so important for DOE to focus on commercialization, not just to tackle our climate challenges, but the opportunity space here, including the competitive nature of the global landscape right now, in terms of what's going on and how commercialization can be such an important part of what we're doing as our strategy going forward. Over to you.
Well, the conversation that's taking place right now across the United States and around the world with chip shortages, let's start there. And we go back and we have to remind several of our colleagues and people over and over that the clean room was developed at Sandia National Laboratories, which led to further chip development in so many areas. And now we're dependent on them, such that vehicles are sitting on lots around the United States or ports because they're missing that chip. And now we're working on this competition bill, a piece of legislation that promises more innovation, looking at the National Science Foundation. But we remind everyone that all the work we're trying to build up at NSF right now already takes place at the Department of Energy. And so the reason I bring all that home is, in good times, this is an important conversation. In tough economic times, this is absolutely essential. And while we look at the national labs with their mission work, not just for national security purposes, stuff we can talk about and stuff we can't, but also the responsibility when it comes to modeling based on base mission that is helping us understand more and more about the oceans every day and what that means to climate science as well. But the last thing that I'll say here is we should also think of the national labs as economic drivers for America and for the world. This is one of those spaces that this incredible science that is keeping us safe, solving big problems, can also lead to major economic expansion. And if we, the United States, can understand that and embrace it, we will only see this grow. So our energy here and enthusiasm is endless when we get to talk about tech transfer. It's one of the reasons why I was so excited to join Democratic and Republican colleagues in the House, leaders like Chuck Fleischman, Dr. Foster, who helped found the Tech Transfer Caucus and then the Lab Caucus in the House, and the work that's happening there. This is bipartisan. This brings people together. We need to continue pushing. And that's why the work you're doing, Deputy Secretary Turk, Dr. Ho, the work that you showed that you can make this happen, and the vision of Senator Heinrich here, all culminating in making this a priority, is only going to improve things tomorrow. So sorry it took so long. I get excited when I talk about this stuff.
Well, it shows that.
I apologize. I've got to run for, I've just got called for a vote, but thank you for what you're doing, and to all of the people across our lab infrastructure. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Call on us. We're here to help.
Well, thanks again, Senator, for all the phenomenal leadership. And we're got 2 minutes remaining. Cliff, a quick question to you, and then Senator Luján, if you want to close this out. Cliff, the question for you is, you've already done this a little bit, but speak to the other labbies, speak to the other folks at the labs, how this new focus of the Technology Commercialization Fund on core lab infrastructure can impact the experience, can empower and unleash the talent. If you could do that in a minute, and then we'll save 1 minute for Senator Luján in case he has any closing comments for us.
Sure, thanks. I'll just start by saying that I believe the 3 TCF, Technology Commercialization Fund projects that were received by Sandia, these are multi-lab consortiums. And I think it's really important. A lot of the work I've done has been teaming with the other labs. And by teaming with the strengths of the individual labs, renewable energy at the National Renewable Energy Lab, some of the manufacturing at Oak Ridge National Laboratory and at Pacific Northwest National Laboratory, it just brings and adds the necessary strengths that complement the overall objectives of what it is we're trying to do. So I really think that having multi-laboratory collaboration is not only beneficial, but it's important to advancing the commercialization objectives that we have. You might be muted.
Sorry. Thank you for that, Cliff. Senator Luján, over to you for any final thoughts, and then Marcos will close us out.
Well, Deputy Secretary, just thank you for what you committed your life to, what you're doing every day. Dr. Ho, for all the work that you do and inspiring us every day, and being willing to push the envelope with others as well. And I think that's where I would leave this, Deputy Secretary Turk, is everyone that's tuning in today, push that envelope. If there's challenges in front of you, I know there's protocol, but come find us. Let's chat about those challenges so that way we can make them better. I will never forget a conversation I had with some former directors who were terrified with how successful this entrepreneurship and commercialization effort might be, because they may lose scientists and physicists and engineers. And what's proven is these scientists, engineers, and professionals, they'll go start this business, they'll go commercialize, but then they come back because they're driven by the passion for this research and solving big problems. So I hope this is just the beginning of a successful launch.
Well, incredibly well put. And I think passion, enthusiasm is the ultimate renewable energy source. And thank you, Senator, for your leadership and your passion. Marcos, over to you if you've got any words to close us out.
Thank you so much, Deputy Secretary. And again, a special thank you to all our esteemed panelists today. This was a really wonderful session, rousing for us all here in the Tech Transitions Office and the larger department, because I think our mission is everyone's mission here. And we are all working together to enhance our lab commercialization outcomes. So I want to thank everyone for joining us today. I think the session's been recorded, so it'll be made available to others. But thank you everyone for joining.